Good evening, everyone. Today is April 19th, 2023. It's about 7 o'clock. My name is Rob Cagnetta, and this is the meeting of the South Kingstown, Rhode Island Zoning Board of Review. Members present tonight are Thomas Daniels, our Vice Chairman, Bill Rosen, Susan Walsh, Kevin Diamond, and Arlene Hicks, who is our alternate. Also present are Amy Goins, South Kingstown Special Legal Counsel, Jamie Gorman, South Kingstown Building and Zoning Official, and Jessica Spence, our Administrative Support Associate. The board is made up of 7 people, where 5 are regular voting members, but only 4 are required to be present to vote. In the event that there are fewer than 4 members, an alternate will step in. No more than 5 members are entitled to a vote. Tonight, the voting members are myself, Mr. Daniels, Mr. Rosen, Ms. Walsh, and Mr. Diamond. And then on the last case for Davitt Properties, or not case, the application for Davitt, Mr. Daniels is going to recuse himself, and Ms. Hicks will be voting on that. Tonight, the voting, applicants are here for either a variance, either a dimensional or use, or to seek a special use permit. The board is made up of a quasi-judicial body created by the South Kingstown Ordinance pursuant to state statutes. We don't follow strict rules of evidence, and we operate in what we believe to be in a fair and equitable manner. We try to let everyone speak unless they get carried away or is determined not to be relevant. So in the interest of time, please try to be on point and be brief. We do our best not to argue and keep things civil, and we try to have the last petition heard by 10 o'clock, which shouldn't be a problem tonight. When your petition is called, please come forward and speak clearly into the microphone. You'll then be asked to state your name and spell it for the record, and then take an oath to tell the truth. The applicant can then present the petition along with any other witnesses to testify in support, with the board asking lots of questions. After the applicant has presented their testimony, the board will seek public testimony either in support or in opposition. They will be asked to come forward, state and spell their name, be sworn in, and present their testimony, again to be followed up by board questions. Our questions or comments to the applicant or other witnesses will be made through the board, and the board will allow the applicant to respond after the comment period. So just keep all questions addressed to the board. After the testimony and before the vote is taken, the board will openly discuss the application and the evidence presented. Variances and special use permits require at least 3 voting members to vote in favor of the petition to grant the requested relief. Board members are asked a lot of questions, and it's for good reason. We cannot grant anything we choose. We follow rules per South Kingstown Ordinance, so you must give testimony to support certain facts to allow your request to be approved. You are here either for a dimensional variance or a special use. For the variance, you must offer the evidence to the board setting forth the following: that your hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and is not due to the general characteristics of the surrounding area. That your hardship is not the result of any prior action on your part, and that granting that the variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. The relief requested is the least relief necessary. And you also must show that the hardship that will be suffered if the variance is not granted will amount to more than a mere inconvenience. For a special use permit, you must present the following: that the special use that you're requesting is specifically authorized by the ordinance. So somewhere in the ordinance, it has to be authorized, or we don't have the power to approve it. The special use requested meets all the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance that authorizes such special use. And that granting of the special use permit will not alter the general characteristic of the surrounding area or impair the purpose or the intent of the zoning ordinance. Do we have anything that we need to review first? Okay. So tonight, the first petition is for George C. Leonard for 359 Main Street, Unit 25A of East Hampton, Massachusetts, 01027-1975 for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish the existing family dwelling and reconstruct a dwelling with the same footprint in the same location. The deck will be located 4.8 feet, or 4 feet 8 inches from the side property. The required yard setback is 10 feet, therefore a relief of 5 feet 4 inches is requested. The lot size is 0.13 acres. The dimensional variance is required per our zoning ordinance, Section 207, and non-conforming lots of record, setback requirements, and Section 907 are standards of relief. The owner of the property is George C. Leonard for the premises located at 276 Prospect Road, South Kingstown, Assessors Map 87-4, Lot 21, and is zoned R20. And Jessica, what do we have?
We have an application with cover letter signed and dated February 2nd, 2023. We have the owner authorization signed and notarized March 31st, 2023. We have vision appraisal field card, which is 3 pages. We have the existing condition site plan, which is 1 page. That was prepared by Frisella and Balch and Associates and was stamped by Jeffrey K. Balch, PLS, dated July 13th, 2021. We have the construction documents, which is the cover page, X1.1, A1.1, A2.1, A3.1. They were prepared by John Patrick Walsh, AIA, and dated November 14th, 2022. We have the 200-foot radius map and abutters list, the legal notice, and the proof of certified mailing and notarized affidavit of mailing.
Thank you, Jessica. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Stephen Surdit for the applicant here this evening.
Serta, you said?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Serta.
Thank you for that opportunity. And thank you and your staff for very eloquently summarizing the application before you. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, here on behalf of the Leonard family, who have a beautiful lot, it's a pre-existing, non-conforming, undersized lot of record. In fact, the Leonard family has had the benefit of owning it for some time. When I went down there and had an opportunity to speak with the family, they actually showed me a really interesting photograph of the owner's and the owner's late wife there with her parents in a black and white photograph when she was a little girl. So this is a family that has utilized this property for some time. It is their home away from home. The owner, Mr. Leonard, is aging, as all of us do over time, and the property is aging as well. It is a 1970s era property. It shows its age, and it even more so shows its age when you go down there, as many of the surrounding properties have been upgraded and modernized, become flood code compliant, and built to modern code standards, both flood and wind and other coastal zone requirements that have come into place in recent time. And that is the family's goal here, is to modernize the structure. As was said, they are keeping the exact same footprint. They did not create the lot, obviously, so the hardship is not something that they created. We believe that reducing the size of the structure would be more than a mere inconvenience and would be a significant hardship to the family. Thus, asking for the same structure in place, which, as we know, most folks, when they redo a home, expand, enlarge, and want to stretch their footprint. These folks are not. They're looking to maintain the same footprint. In fact, we're really here with regards to the access way, which is really where the relief is being asked from, which is that access to the home and access to the rear deck from the front of the property without going through the property. I have 2 witnesses here with me this evening, Mr. John Walsh, the architect, who submitted those building plans with you, and then the Leonard family representative as well, who would testify to the specifics of that they're not doing this for a financial gain after they're done paying myself, architects and builders and everything else under the sun, as well as to the condition of the property as it sits today. It's an aged property, especially with the surrounding neighborhood and the community, which have a majority of nice new homes that are built to current standards. It is I assume many of you went down there or are familiar with the area. It is a beautiful area. It is a unique little island that's connected by a causeway from the Matunuck, and as part of the Matunuck Village. And the Leonard family know that, they value that, and that's why they're looking to maintain the size of the existing structure. So that being said, I turn it over to Mr. Walsh and questions the board may have of him or myself.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Walsh.
Good evening.
Please spell your name, state and spell your name, please.
My name is John Patrick Walsh, W-A-L-S-H, and I am a registered architect in Rhode Island. My office is at 9 Canal Street in Westerly, but I am a South Kingston resident, so
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So go ahead.
Okay, so right here you're looking at, I can't tell which sheet that is. Sorry. Okay, those are the existing proposed elevations. So just to clarify a little bit, what Attorney Surdett said, the existing foundation for this house and first floor will remain. Okay, so what we're doing is we're basically going to rebuild the back wall at grade level to make, to allow for flood vents and all that that need to be done, and to make the foundation compliant. And then what we're doing is we're taking off the existing roof, and we're going to sister the second floor, and we're going up with the new second floor. So we're going up right over the existing, okay? But it will be, by the time we get done, it's a full renovation. I mean, we're gutting the interior, all new insulation, bringing everything up to code. The only other thing that I really have to mention here, and I apologize, that the stairs on the deck, if you look at the deck plan, if you can go to A11, yeah, if you look at that deck plan in the top left-hand corner, you'll notice that it's squared off in the back and it has stairs to the left. This is my error in giving these to Attorney Surdett. The deck is going to be exactly what the existing deck is. CRMC has said you can't put the stairs in, you can't take the chamfer off the corner that is on the existing deck. You can rebuild the deck exactly where it is. We don't have a problem with that, but no expanding it. So I don't know if you can stipulate that into the approval if it is approved, but you know, that is what's going to happen. So what you're seeing there is the renovated first floor, and then if you slide down a little bit, that's the upper floor with the 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, laundry room, and then a kids loft, correct? So we can get the kids up and away. So, you know, pretty much that's it. We tried to keep it very simple. We don't want to try to create a Taj Mahal here or anything like that. We just want to add some living space for the family and make it a little bit more comfortable and make it all compliant to current codes. Okay.
I just have one question for Mr. Gorman. So the 2 corners that he's talking about are not within the setback. So it doesn't matter if he's just changing that design, per se? Is that, like, he's taking the stairs out in the back, which isn't necessarily part of our review, right?
Oh, he's going up another story, though.
Right, but the deck in that corner is not part of the setback, so if they square it or corner it the way it really is no...
Yeah, it sounds like CRMC will be limiting.
So that answers that. That answers that.
Yeah, CRMC is going to control, right.
But we don't even necessarily need to note it in the decision. So, okay. Is there more you want to add to that?
I would just ask Mr. Walsh, do you believe that it's the least amount of relief necessary for the applicant to reasonably use and enjoy the property based upon modern code compliance, modern house sizes, and the way people are designing homes in today's world?
Yes, absolutely, considering there's two families that are using this, 2 brothers and their families. I don't think it's going over the top at all.
And you believe it's in conformity with the surrounding neighborhood, home designs, and the way properties are laid out?
Absolutely. It still has that little coastal cottage look to it. It's kind of keeping it simple.
Yeah, happy to answer any questions the board may have at this time.
So it does look like the walkway in the front, I'm sorry, I don't know my orientation, in the southeast, where you're adding the deck, So it's no longer quote-unquote a landscape feature, it's turning into part of the deck and stairs.
Well, it's not a landscape feature now.
Okay.
It is a deck.
It is
But
a
what you
raised
do is, it's something we were taught in school never to do, don't bring me down to take me up.
Right.
So what you do is you go down and you walk the deck and then you go back up. So what we're doing is staying right in the same footprint. We're just cleaning up the end of it here because of where the OWTS is going to be. So we're wrapping the corner.
Board members, questions of the witness? Mr. Daniels?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Walsh, your new OWTS, is that correct?
There will be a new, yes.
You have approval on that yet?
I believe CJ has you.
I believe we're working with engineer and CJ Doyle out of Hope Valley, so I'd be happy, if we do have it, and you can also stipulate that as part of your decision. I have no objection to that.
Okay. And
We have that, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have the OWTS approval.
you do have it? Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, and I understand you're building up.
Yes.
A whole nother story.
Right.
So in essence, it's 3 stories.
Well, it's,
You're leaving the initial one, you had the picture of the building. And then you're going up.
so the lower story, the basement's in a flood zone, so it can't be used. All the mechanical, everything has to come up out of the basement. So the basement's just kind of walk-in storage space. It has to be, yeah.
And I looked for the square footage, and it may be in the drawings, but I'm not an architect.
Of habitable square footage, it would be double what the first floor is, so,
Okay, so the current square footage is,
oh, I forgot my glasses.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious what the current square footage is. And then you're saying it's going to be double.
Right. Yes, that will help, thank you, I could probably read that.
About 768 or so.
Yeah, so the basement's 768, yep, so 768 times 2. So it's gonna be about 1,500 square feet. It's a little bit less than 768 on the second floor because of the cheek walls and stuff where the dormers are. So I'd say you're about 1,500 square feet.
So this is an intensification.
Mr. Chairman, this would just be the, dimensional variance. They don't need any relief from the gross living floor area like other petitions would need. They are within the limits for floor area and deck area.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that Mr. Leonard's a longtime owner. It's a family house.
Thanks, Ms. Walsh. Anyone else? Questions of this witness? No? Okay. Anything to add?
Nothing for myself. Would you like me to call Mr. Family Representative?
Sure, please.
If you could just state your name, spell your name, and where you reside for the record.
Sure. Casey Leonard, Leonard, and I live in Portland, Maine.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent. So go ahead, Mr. Lynn.
Mr. Leonard, we'll do a little story time. What's your first memory of this property?
It's been around my entire life. I was probably 2 or 3 years old. Yeah, it's been, I mean, this property has been in my grandfather bought it in 1947. My family, my parents owned a cottage in Mary Carpenter's. And so this was my grandparents' house, about a mile away. And so it was a good, it was a good opportunity to spend some time with my grandparents.
You've been coming here ever since?
Yeah, I spent every summer in Matunic until I was 18. Yeah, ever since, yeah. Not necessarily the entire summer, but yeah, yes.
And you tend to bring your family here?
I do.
Your brother does as well?
Yes.
And you
yeah.
and your brother intend to own this property into the foreseeable future?
Oh, we do. Yeah, we
That's
do.
the reason for this renovation?
That is correct.
You
Yes.
believe it's in conformity with your neighbors in the surrounding area?
I do. I do.
And you believe it's the least amount of relief necessary for your family to reasonably use and enjoy it into the future?
I do.
And you have some children,
I do.
and your
I do.
brother does as well?
He does.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of people in a very small space currently.
Yes, especially when it's raining outside. You can't go outside, so.
Right.
And you're not motivated by a financial gain by the time you're done paying everybody and
No.
dealing with your brother in this process.
No.
There you go.
Any questions the board may have of Mr. Leonard?
I don't. Anyone else? Mr. Daniels?
Just for clarification, I thought Attorney Surdot indicated that the structure was built in 1970.
That's correct. The current structure was built in 19.
So this is a third iteration of the structure. There was one before 1970.
Yeah, I actually have a picture of it.
Oh, I'm just curious. There was
It's
an,
essentially a shack. Yeah, I mean, my grandfather, I think, built a shack there.
okay. And,
I think there were two of them, and I think they got blown away by hurricanes.
all right, I just wanted to clarify the record.
Yeah.
So in 1970, the current structure was built.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Mr. Rosen?
Mr. Leonard, the front of the house faces the pond or the road? I was out there, and it looked like the back, I was facing the back. Was I?
Well, it's sort of, I'm going to step in if you don't mind. Like anybody who is on the water, the purpose of the best part of the house is out the back. So the deck is out the back. The main entranceway is on the side. When you go out there, there is not a typical front door. And I had the same reaction when I first saw it. So the deck, the orientation, everything, the features are primarily on the back side of the property, on the water
Which is
side.
the pond side?
The pond side, yes.
Okay.
Although there's ponds on both sides.
No, I
because
realize
it's an
that, but
island.
there is a road, Prospect Road.
Yes, there is a road.
And that is, the back of the house faces that Prospect Road.
Well, for colloquial speak, yes, but that we do consider, that would be the frontage, would be that on Prospect Road, as you're saying, but the house, the access point is on the side, and the main features of the house are on the pond sides. Yes, sir.
Okay. I assume that the people who live in that house wanted to face that pond because that's the best view, obviously.
Certainly. That would be correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Norman, if you can pan to the left on the panel upstairs, or on the video, Mr. Walsh, maybe you can help me answer the question in a more succinct way.
Please go to the next sheet. Down. Down again. Looking for the elevations. Okay. That right there is the front elevation that faces the street.
Proposed front elevation, correct?
Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Any other questions, board members? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is anyone here want to speak on behalf of this petition, either for or against? No? Okay. Any discussion? Yeah. It's, it seems very reasonable. They're utilizing the existing footprint. They're making egress around the building a little easier, and they're improving it. So it seems reasonable. So, excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Does anyone want to make a motion for approval?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Excellent.
The motion is to approve the petition of George C. Leonard of 359 Main Street, Unit 25A of East Hampton, for a dimensional variance under the ordinances that we have in place. Stephen Surdot, the lawyer for Mr. George Leonard, presented the information. John Walsh, the architect, corroborated that information and answered questions, and Casey Leonard, the son or grandson? Son of Mr. Leonard, also spoke on behalf of approval of the petition. There were no other supporting individuals or any opposition to this petition. And as a consequence, I would move approval of the petition for the following reasons. The board finds that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to the physical or economic disability of the applicant. The new structure is going to be a two-story structure on the same footprint. There's essentially the setbacks are determined by the structure that's already there, and so the situation associated with the new structure is not going to harm the region or the neighborhood, which is very beautiful, as a matter of fact, and should be an enhancement to the neighborhood. The board finds that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain. The son, Casey Leonard, and his brother are going to own this structure, not maybe in perpetuity, but certainly for as long as they possibly can, to enjoy the beautiful region that comes when summer comes in this area, and as a result, they aren't seeking any financial gain whatsoever. The board finds that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan upon which the ordinance is based. As I previously said, this is because the structure is essentially going to be a replacement for the structure that's there. It's going to be on the same footprint as the structure, and everything is going to be modernized as other structures in the neighborhood have been done in the past. The board finds that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary because the structure is really in not very good shape at this time. It's been around since 1970, and it looks rather weathered, as a matter of fact. The board finds that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience because the present structure needs to be replaced, simply put. As a result, I move approval of this petition.
Motion is made by Mr. Rosen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Mr. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Cagnetta? Aye. Motion passes. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. You too. All right. So next, we have the petition of Laura Boughton of 70 East 10th Street, apartment 15N, New York, New York, 10003, for a special use permit under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish an existing 743 square foot cottage and reconstruct an 880 square foot cottage with an attached 200 square foot porch. The distance between the adjacent cottages will remain unchanged. The lot size is 50.2 acres. Special use permit is required per the zoning ordinance, section 203. Special use permit for addition, enlargement, and expansion or intensification, section 608, our coastal community overlay district, and section 907, our standards of relief. Owners of the cottage, 13W5, are Laura E. Boughton and Laura Alborn.
Same person, actually.
Oh, okay.
Old name, new name.
All right. On the property owned by Matunic Beach Properties, Inc., located at 240 Cards Pond Road, South Kingstown, Assessors Map 92-1, Lot 9-360, and is zoned R200. Jessica?
We have an application signed and dated March 13th, 2022. We have the owner authorization signed and notarized February 23rd, 2023. We have the existing site plan overview, which is 2 pages. We have the proposed site plan, which is 1 page. We have the construction documents, which consist of a cover page, elevation, and first floor plan, which was prepared by Excel Homes and dated November 11th, 2022. We have the 200-foot radius map and a butters list, legal notice, proof of certified mailing, and notarized affidavit of mailing.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and you are?
I am Laura Boughton.
Nice to, and please spell your name for us.
It's Boughton.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent. So tell us what you like to do.
This is a cottage, seasonal cottage at Roy Carpenter's Beach that I owned with my parents. They've passed away subsequently, so it's just myself and my 3 sisters at this point. It was built in 1950. It's in very, very bad shape at this point. It's basically sitting on, concrete blocks very close to the ground, which makes it extremely wet and musty, rotting away, in essence. So it's time for us to take that down and replace it with something that's roughly the same size, and a little bit more modern and up to watertight, up to code, all those kinds of things.
So the 50s is even older than the 70s.
Yes, it is. It's very old. And I will say my father was not very handy, so
It's
it's not in great shape.
like all the cottages used to be. Okay, and I have a question just about the deck. Now, is that something that they had to reduce the size of? Is that per the, because there was mention in here that that they made the deck smaller per the ordinance 6087.
So, Mr. Chairman, that section allows the board to grant 200 square foot maximum,
For a deck.
correct?
Okay, so that's why they had to reduce it.
If they're demolishing what's existing, then they'd be limited to reduce it.
All right, I'm just making sure. For some reason, I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Great. So you're not changing any of the distance between you and the neighbors?
No.
And where's your parking? Where do you typically park?
We generally park you can see the open lot there, where it says 13 West 5.
Yep.
We generally park right there, or there's parking right across that small street.
Okay, so behind it?
Yes.
Okay, board members, any questions? Mr. Daniels?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just some clarification, maybe the building official can help me. Did we establish, either by ordinance or by rule, a minimum distance between, in this district, between the buildings?
So they're required to have or maintain their existing separation if it's under 15, but if it's over 15 feet separation, you can rather change it as long as it's over 15.
So they're okay with 13 here?
They are because
They're
they're
maintaining it?
maintaining.
Okay, thank you.
The roof covering it, Mr. Gorman, isn't an issue if in terms of expanding the footprint. Like, is there a roof over the existing deck now?
There's not a roof over the existing deck now, so that would be yeah.
So does that have to count within the floor, the square footage?
I don't believe so, only if it was enclosed
Only
or screened in.
Okay, but not a roof?
Give me 2 minutes.
Okay. So, I mean, you are only expanding at 16%. I mean, you're allowed to go 50%. So I don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay.
But it's just making sure, because I know covered decks sometimes have an issue. But in the meantime, is there anyone else that has a question of this applicant? Mr. Rosen?
The structure's going to be raised how far?
Yes. We'll raise it to as far as we need to keep in compliance with the codes. We haven't done the engineering or the survey yet to determine how high it needs to be. I wanted to get approval before I invested to do that, but
Other structures around there, they're also raised.
it depends on whether they're renovated or not. Some are raised and some are still very close to the ground, depending on.
How high are most of those structures? Well, are you going to be approximately at the same height as?
The 2 adjacent cottages are not raised. They're
Not raised?
They're not raised. They're
Okay.
by the ground.
So they will be swept away in the 15-foot wave that comes and
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
They will be swept away in the 15-foot wave that comes, and you won't.
Theoretically, but we're pretty far back from the actual ocean at this point. We're in the last row.
I know you're far back, but, you know,
I know, it's changing quickly,
things are changing quickly.
Yes.
You're correct.
yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gorman, did you find out?
Yes, so it would not be calculated as floor area. So as long as it remains open air, it can be covered. But if they wish to enclose it at a later date, they would have to come back to the board.
Right, and could it be a screened enclosure, or could it be a permanent enclosure? Either?
Could be.
Could be either one?
Well, this is the only bite, so they're going the maximum increase for floor area. So unless the ordinance changes, I don't believe you would be able to convert this at a later date to living area.
But it can be screened, theoretically.
I would consider that open to air, but under review, of course.
So I'm sorry, would I be able to screen that porch or no?
From floor to roof screen, but no half walls or guards.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Just so you know
Totally.
the limitations of what
Yes.
to do. Thank you. Any other comments, questions by the board? No? Do you want to add anything else?
no, thank you for considering the application, and we're hoping we can go forward.
Okay, great. Thank
Thanks.
you. So you can sit down if, we'll see, is there anyone out there that wants to speak on behalf of this petition, either for or against? No? Okay. Well, this seems pretty straightforward. It is probably one of the few older ones remaining down there. But it's, the ordinance has evolved, allowing them to do this. So is there any concerns or? Straightforward?
Pretty straight down the fairway to me, so.
Cool. All right, someone want to make a motion? Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve the petition of Laura Bolton of New York City for a special use permit for property located at 240 Cards Pond Road, part of the Matunic Beach Properties location. The chairman has read in the application, and the administrative assistant has read in the documents that were provided with the application. Ms. Bolton spoke on her own behalf and indicated that she is wishing to demolish the existing 743-foot cottage and rebuild a 880-square-foot building, living quarters on the same location. Well, while the footprint will change to some degree, the dimensions between the west side and the east side will remain the same, and the dimensions in the rear and the front will also remain the same. With that, no one spoke in opposition to the request, and no one else spoke on behalf of the request. The board finds that this special use is specifically authorized by the ordinance because this particular property is located in a non-conforming lot of record, and that is the coastal overlay district, and therefore any construction in that area requires a special use permit. The board finds that the special use meets all the criteria set forth in the subsection of this ordinance authorizing such special use because Section 907 describes the standards of relief, and the Section 608 covers the coastal community overlay district and what's required. The board finds that the granting of the special use permit will not alter the general character of the surrounding area because there are 300 or 400 existing buildings, much the same size on this single lot. And it will not impair the intent or purpose of the ordinance or the comprehensive plan of the town. The board has considered whether or not satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made or will be made concerning but not limited to the following matters. Ingress and egress to the lot will remain the same The testimony was that parking will remain the same and remain at the rear of the building. And there are no issues with traffic flow or access in case of fire, emergency, or catastrophe. The existing 13-foot side lot distance from the existing adjoining building, I should say, is within the ordinance and is adequate for fire and emergency vehicles. Off-street parking was discussed. No issues with that. There's no issues with trash storage delivery areas. Utilities will not change. They're available and will be upgraded as necessary with the building. There is no screening or buffering required. There is no signs or exterior lighting that will need to be addressed. And general compatibility is the same as the other lots in the abutting area and in the abutting zoning district. So with that, there is no conditions to the approval, and with that, I would move that we approve this application.
Motion is made by Mr. Daniels. Can I get a second?
Yes.
Second by Mr. Diamond. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mr. Cagnetta, aye. Motion passes. Good luck. You're welcome. Okay, so the next petition, Mr. Daniels is going to recuse himself, which means he gets to go home. Unless there's any other, is there any other business that we would need to conduct with Mr. Daniels here before? No? Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next, we're going to hear the petition of Davitt Properties, Inc. of 4 Frank Avenue in West Kingston, Rhode Island, 02892 for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish the existing single-family dwelling and construct a 3-story dwelling 0 feet from the front property line, which is Middlebridge Road, and 16.7 feet from the other front property line, which is Lafayette Avenue. The required front setback is 25 feet, therefore a relief of 25 feet and 8.3 feet is requested. The dwelling will be located 9.2 feet from the west side of the property line. The required side yard setback is 12 feet, therefore a relief of 12.8 feet is requested. The proposed building lot coverage will be 34%, whereas the maximum is allowed is 25%, so a relief of 9% is requested. The proposed gross floor area of the dwelling will be 2,637 square feet, whereas the maximum allowed is 1,900 square feet, so a relief of 737 square feet is requested. The cumulative area of the proposed decks will be 582 square feet, whereas the maximum deck area allowed is 285 square feet. So a relief of 297 square feet is requested. The lot size is 0.16 of an acre. The dimensional variance is required per the zoning ordinance, section 207, non-conforming lots of record building setback requirements, section 401, schedule of dimensional regulations, and section 601, special flood hazard area overlay district, and section 907 are standards of relief. Owner of the property is Davitt Properties, Inc. for premises located at 175 Middlebridge Road, South Kingstown, Assessors Map 43-4, Lot 4, and is zoned R20. Ms. Spence?
We have the application with cover letter signed and dated March 3rd, 2023. We have the owner authorization signed and notarized March 3rd, 2023. We have the CRMC Circ plan, which is 1 page, prepared by Dowdell Engineering and stamped by Mark L. Dowdell, P.E., and dated January 5th, 2022. We have the construction documents, which consists of S1.0, A1.1, A1.2, A2.1, A2.2, A3.1, A3.2, and A3.3. They're prepared by Davitt Design Build and dated December 21st, 2022. We have a 200-foot radius map and a butters list. We have the legal notice. We have the proof of certified mailing and the notarized affidavit of mailing.
Thank you. And who do we have here tonight for this? Good evening.
Evening, Mr. Chairman. Jack McGreen for the applicant, Davitt Properties. As you stated, the property is identified as Assessors Plat 43-4, Lot 4, and is located at 175 Middlebridge Road. I'll just summarize what you had said without going through all the numbers. It's a legal non-conforming lot of record located in R20 zone. It does contain 6,335 square feet. There's an existing house on the property. The applicant intends to demolish the home and construct a 3-story dwelling. Because of the topography, the nonconformity of the lot, the proximity to Narrow River, the applicant's intended use of the property, and the unique characteristics of the subject property, the applicant is seeking front, side, and rear lot relief. As you pointed out, the property is located in a special flood area, and as such, any replacement dwelling under the ordinance is defined in the ordinance as a development project. And under the zoning ordinance, a development project is subject to the standards set forth in Section 601 of the zoning ordinance. And specifically, 601.7 outlines the standards for floor area and maximum deck area. Applicant is seeking 730 feet of relief from the gross floor area and 290 square feet of relief from the maximum deck area. I have Dave Whitney with me from Davitt Design to walk you through the plans. So Dave, if you could just step up and get yourself sworn in.
Thank you.
Hi. Just state your name and spell it, please.
Sure. David Whitney, W-H-I-T-N-E-Y. I'm with Davitt Design Build.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. So,
Dave, could you initially point out the, it's tough to read. I don't know if that can be blown up.
Excuse me,
just get a little closer, like, just so we can hear you guys.
Yeah.
So both you guys can be on the record.
When I was watching you on TV, I was saying the same thing.
I know.
You're over here, you can't.
I know, yeah.
Could you bring that first page up? And is it possible to make that a little bit larger? Because it's tough to see the existing footprint. There we go. And just bring it a little bit to the left. You'll see on its side. There you go.
Go ahead, Mr. Whitney.
So Davitt Properties purchased this property back in the fall. The original, so the intention is to tear down and rebuild this. The existing house was built in 1940. It is in an AE 11 zone, so the new structure needs to be above the floodplain. So that is the intended improvement to go back above that floodplain. The existing house is 4 feet on the left side off the setback, so the intention is to kind of center the house in the middle of this lot. So the original intention of the property was to tear down and rebuild to replace with a rental property, which we would then hold for rental purposes. But kind of as we went through the design of this and then kind of looking at the surrounding area, it really made more sense to build a house that's more structured for a family or a second home or a retirement home. That seems to be kind of more fitting for the surroundings. So our design is really structured for the use of a family, for the use of a second home or for a retirement home.
And do you recall, I know we spoke this afternoon, the footprint of the property, you're getting rid of the garage and the shed, is that correct?
Yeah, all the existing structures are
Okay.
being removed.
So, do you know what the difference is between the existing footprint and the proposed footprint?
63 square feet?
63 square feet?
Yes.
So the footprint, you're saying that you're only enlarging it by 63 square feet total?
Overall, yes.
Including the decks, or not
It
including?
does not.
I'm just talking about the footprint of the building.
The footprint of the building, garage, and house.
Yes, the footprint of the, yes.
Existing garage.
Existing
Existing
garage,
garage, yeah.
shed, and house.
Correct.
Removing everything and replacing it with a footprint that is 63 square feet larger than the existing footprint.
And how big is the shed?
78 square feet? 76, okay. Yeah.
76, okay, so I see okay.
And that is located, I think, actually off the property line. So if you go up to the north, it's on the back of Lafayette.
As to the setback on the left side setback, you're actually making that more.
Yeah, so on the left-hand setback, the house is actually going to be located within the 12-foot setback. The relief we're seeking is for the utility overhang. So there's going to be an equipment platform. So the house that we have designed is, the actual house itself is within the 12 feet, but the equipment platform, because we cannot have any of our utilities underground level, so we had to put them on an equipment platform, and I believe there has to be an area where someone can work around it. So I believe that is the need for relief on that side. In our initial, we are within a CRMC's jurisdiction, so the initial conversations we've had with them are they just don't want the house to go any closer to the water feature.
And could you address the front yard setback, the need for the front?
Yeah, so the front yard setback at 0, the purpose of that is really we have to get up to the front door. So the front door is 12 feet above existing now. So if we did a straight stair, we would end up off the property line. So we did an L-shaped stair to get up to the front floor. And actually, if you want to go back to the GIS, just want to show you. So the property line is actually kind of in the middle of that existing walkway coming towards the road.
So so the porch on the front, so you have stairs and a porch on front, so you couldn't configure that in any other way to sort of get up there to that door without being right up to the property line?
So if we go back to the intention is, so there's going to be there's a parking to the left, so you can get out of your car and then kind of get up to the front porch. So you're talking about reducing the porch
Well,
to get up to that front door.
I think while the footprint is close, it's definitely a different presence on the lot, the new design. There's a significant difference in terms of its, what it's being proposed as is a much more imposing structure than what is there. And I'm just not sure, I don't know why the stairs have to come out that way. There's many other ways to sort of get to that door without going to the property line, I would think.
You're talking about maybe going to the side, or, I mean, it was designed so that two people could park, guest parking, and then they would walk right up the stairs for the front.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, we're looking for the least relief necessary, and this is sort of pushing every boundary of setback, of lot coverage, decks, and I'm not sure what justifies that. So, I mean, certainly the porch on the front, again, it's, you're asking us to make it bigger than it's allowed to be, and I'm sort of asking why.
Yeah, so if we're
That
gonna,
porch need to be there.
So my understanding is the porch and the deck, that's included in the 587 square feet.
Right.
So yeah, if that needs to get reduced in size, we can certainly look at that.
Okay.
And as far as the structure itself, I think all of the relief we are requesting, we're trying to improve the lot overall. I'm kind of centering in the lot, and the additional square footage is, we're going up.
Isn't that what's really driving the stairs? Because right now, you just kind of walk right into the house because it's one level, and when you demolish it, you're gonna have to
I have to put it
raise
at 12 feet, or 11 feet.
So yeah, by raising it, you need the stairs.
Right.
It's not a straight shot anymore to the front door.
Correct.
Right, but why do you need all the deck, though? Like, because you're asking for an overage of decking, too.
Yeah, and
So
if-
why do you need all the decking? Like, what's,
Yeah, I'd be willing to reduce the decking if that would be.
What's that?
I'd be willing to reduce the size of the decks as a condition of
okay,
the application, certainly.
okay. Board members, more comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Mr. Cagnetta has said. I understand the challenge, though. It's basically a rise and run issue. You lift the house up and you need more run to get to it. I too struggle with the least relief necessary component to this, though. I feel like there's many ways by maybe having the entry off to the side or having a fold-back staircase, many things that can probably be deployed to push this away from the street. I get concerned about the presence of it, like literally on the lot line, not just against.
Yeah, the struggle was pushing it back, but I can't go closer to that coastal feature.
Right.
Yeah, and if we do need to reduce the size of the decks and the porch, I mean, we can certainly work within that.
So how would we codify that?
There's more but yeah, I think we would have to ask for a redesign.
Okay,
But is one option, but there's more we can talk about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's all I have.
How many bedrooms is the house now?
I believe it's a 3-bedroom cottage.
And proposing 4 at this point?
Correct, yes. There's a master on the first, master on the second, and 2 other bedrooms on the second.
So I guess I go back to that same thing. You're getting more space because you're going up.
Correct.
So why do you need to go out?
For the porch.
Anywhere. Even at 63 feet, even all the deck. I mean, it's a small lot. And I'm just, I see a lot of ability to sort of shrink this whole thing to kind of fit better within the setbacks. I'm not understanding why it even needs to go beyond the setbacks.
Right, so, and I think that goes back to kind of the original intention that we had was buying it and building a rental property, which would be more conducive for a smaller property that we could certainly fit within that lot. I think after kind of looking at the area, it made much more sense to build a family type of house, a second home or retirement home. So it was designed with that in mind. Many of our houses, we have a master on the first floor. There's a lot of appeal in that these days. So that's why that additional square footage kind of came into play.
Yeah, I think we happened to catch that Cider Street, I think it was back in February. And I appreciate the fact that applications stand on their own. There's no precedent setting with applications. But when we saw that argument and the board's view of that, positive view of that application, this pretty much is within a few square feet the same request for relief. It is a changing neighborhood. Like you stated, previous application, it's an evolving neighborhood. It's changing. Those houses, one at a time, are going to get knocked down and brought up to modern standards. Even though they don't intend to live in the property, so they really can't make the argument that it's our lifelong family property. Certainly, the person they're going to sell to, most likely, will probably be a second home for somebody. And again, the space is, it is a small lot, but it's not a big house that we're putting here. It's a modest-sized house and it fits within the character of the neighborhood when you look at other houses within that neighborhood. Again, as you had pointed out in the Cider Lane application, it's an evolving neighborhood, and the houses are getting bigger. And eventually, all the tiny cottages are going to be gone within the next 15, 20 years.
Understood. And I think the case you're talking about, I had COVID that month. So I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't here?
No, I was not. So,
I tired.
but no, you're right. Each one has to stand on its own regardless. And obviously, we can tell that it's a unique shape, the site. There's no question about that.
The shape
But-
and the the lot is really the driving force, and the non-conforming nature of the lot is really,
Non-conforming,
legal non, I mean, obviously, it's not 20,000 square feet, so it's,
right, right,
and the river's right there, so you kind of get pushed.
right, with
And the road
CRMC.
is shrinking.
Ms. Walsh?
You know, I'm very concerned that this is not the least relief necessary. I just want to kind of clarify, because I'm not sure I understand, but you all bought the house in November, and now you want to raise the current house and build a house to sell. And so what's the motivation for making the number of bedrooms, and how many bathrooms does it have?
That one has 3.5. Yeah, it's 3.5.
It just seems to me that this is a little out of characteristic with the neighborhood as it is, and I think it's not the least relief necessary. I mean, I know there are some houses up on the hill looking down that are larger, and I think they've been there a while. So I'm concerned that this is a nice little lot and that the house could be a little smaller and still serve the purpose of a retirement home or a summer home. So,
Any other questions for, yes?
Clarification, Jamie, is there a height requirement, maximum height?
Yes, there is a maximum height requirement. They're currently, because this is a development project, they're within the limit of the maximum building height as it's drawn.
36 feet is within the limit, what's the limit?
It's measured from the top of finished floor, so the base flood elevation, and they have the top of finished floor, then you're allowed to go 25 feet on top of that.
Okay. And in the reference to the lot that we approved, that was a 3-story house, as I remember.
I believe so, but the first story is storage and parking only, so it's not living space.
Right, okay. And this is going to be the same as that?
Correct.
Okay. Just to refresh your memory, I voted against that petition.
I know you did. I know, Mr.
And
Dick.
I was here, I didn't have COVID. And I am concerned with the least relief necessary as well.
I think the point we're trying to make, and really not by way of threat, was that we do realize what the neighborhood, it's a neighborhood, it's a family neighborhood, and we're not being driven by the finances, but in order to make this work for my client, if we go smaller, we need to go rental. It is in the numbers. But if we go family, we need to go a little bit bigger. Otherwise, it's a market issue, really. And so it's not driven completely by the economics, but that obviously is one of the considerations. And we were trying to fit within the character of the neighborhood. And so if we have to meet and not exceed any of the requested relief, it will definitely be, it has to be a rental. That's just, they're in the business, they know the numbers better than I do, but that's just the nature of the beast. We could reduce that back deck, we could bring that back into, how much smaller could we reduce that deck?
Probably by half. And then we can take a look at the porch. It's the deck and the porch combined, so we could take a look at. We can certainly reduce that.
We could reduce that if that's something that would get us over the hump. But if that's a non-starter, then, you know, we just want to get a feel for the board. We'd be willing to go back and try and do a reduction on that deck and try and work something out that would perhaps get us off the front a little bit. But in terms of the floor area relief that we're looking for, it's really, it's being driven by what a family is looking for in this day and age.
And I have had conversations with two interested parties. So there is a market for this. There's not a ton of inventory out there on the water. So there is certainly a market for, and these are both two, they would be families.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that there is a market out there.
And obviously that could change.
I just want to bring up one other point. We have approved a house in that area that is 1 inch off of the property line. Right. Right? So 0 feet, I guess, is not a stretch.
And it's not the house, it's the stairs, it's the stairs that were.
No, it was stairs in that case, too, which is right down the road from where you're talking about, by the way. But I guess I'm still sitting in the same place as Susan, so.
Yeah.
And Kevin.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
oh, I just want to reiterate, I don't think necessarily precedent is justification. So I just, in my.
When I brought that up, it wasn't to show a precedent, but just to show that the board, when they considered that house and gave the approval, they recognized the fact, at least the majority of the board at that time recognized the fact that it was an evolving area and it did fit in within the neighborhood as it was being evolved. That was my purpose of bringing that up, not to say, well, you did it for them, you can do it for us. And I know they were a family, and they've been in that house for 50 years, and it was their lifelong dream. And quite frankly, it should have no bearing on your decision.
Correct.
It does, I know. People are people.
It
but
shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it does, and I appreciate that. But we're not telling you we're going to live there when we're not. We're building the house for sale.
Sure. Okay. Any other, yes, Ms. Hicks?
Can you tell me how many feet now, if you build the front stairs as proposed, how many feet between the stairs and the street? What is the easement in there?
Middlebridge?
You bring up the first plan.
So it's 0 feet off the property line.
Right, but then how many feet to the street?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the property line stops at one point, but then the actual road starts how far from that? Thank you. Yes.
It's like about 12 feet. I'm looking at that 12.5 feet there. That looks about, probably a little bit more than 12 feet, just based on the comparison between the 12.5 from the porch to the property line, and then look at that line compared to the edge of pavement.
So about 12 and a half feet away from the street?
Yes.
Okay. And then how much parking does that allow? I assume truck pad means driveway?
Truck pad, yeah, so there's room for 2 cars.
2 cars next to each other? Okay. But
And then underneath, there's garage doors, so 4 cars can park.
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
More parking than what is available now.
Okay. Any other questions, board members? Okay. Anything else you want to add with this witness?
I'd just like to, I'll just quickly run through the questions with my applicant. Is it fair to say that your relief requested is due to the unique character of the property?
Yes.
And you haven't taken, obviously, any prior action?
No.
You're knocking the
Nope,
house
we
down?
haven't done anything.
And in your opinion, will it alter the general character of the
Nope.
neighborhood?
Nope.
And in your opinion, you believe that this is the least relief necessary in order to build this, fully use the property for a family to live there as opposed to being a rental unit?
I do, yes.
And if you weren't going to get this relief, would this amount to more than a mere inconvenience?
No.
To you?
Okay. Great, thank you. Anyone out there want to speak on behalf of this petition? either for or against? Anyone? Come on up, first come, first serve. Good evening. Just state and spell your name, please.
My name is Reed Reed. It's R-E-E-D.
Last name is Reed, I'm sorry.
Both.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. And are you going to speak as well?
Yes, I'm Laura Reed.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, excellent.
R-E-E-D. R-E-E-D both times. Yep.
Okay, go ahead. What would you guys like to say?
So we have a property on Lafayette Avenue, which is almost behind this property, a little ways up the street. And looking at the property as it is now, they said that it's 63 feet of more square footage, but than the existing 3 structures, but the 3 structures that are there are not connected. So I would worry about, as flooding increases over time, that one solidified structure that's larger than the 3 that are there would impact the flooding of the surrounding structures and also the street, especially with it closer to the road and sort of along the entirety of that structure. So it will either compromise the structure that they build, their neighbors, or the street, and then that will impact the river environment in a negative way, even though in the plans there's a trench somewhere, but it looked fairly small and not like great for reducing floodwater. And the neighborhood as it is now is primarily residential and small houses, and it seems like a large 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath wouldn't fit in the character at all and would change the surrounding area, both the aesthetics and the environment. So I wouldn't be against the proposed changes.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so you know that any new building that's built these days, they do have stormwater requirements, so you're not allowed to you're not allowed to send water off your property anymore. So it all has to be captured and claimed, on that property. So in fact, newer buildings sometimes are better than the older ones in the way they sort of discharge their water. But it has to be pretty well regulated. It is pretty well regulated. And it's part of the building code that they'll have to do that. So if anything, it does, sometimes it helps. But thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's what those trenches were?
Yeah, you're supposed to capture and hold any water just on your property.
Okay.
So.
And the main concern, the reason we came is we were wondering where the driveway was going to be. And I see that it's on Middlebridge, not on Lafayette. We were concerned they might put it on Lafayette, but
Yeah, it looks
not
like
according to the drawing.
it's staying where it is, pretty much. Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
No.
But the size is your biggest, you're saying it doesn't quite fit in the neighborhood, so. Great. Thank you.
Just a
Oh,
second.
sorry, Mr. Rosen. Come back, sorry.
Yes.
Your name is Reed Reed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Exactly where do you live on Lafayette?
19 Lafayette.
Which is,
Property who recently passed away, so it's passed on to us.
as I drive that, as I drive down Lafayette,
It's,
is it on the left or right side?
it's
It's
the,
number 16. Yeah, it's on the left.
Left? Closer to the water than,
No, further.
Farther left.
Further.
well, I drove there, so I'm trying to picture it in my brain.
it'll be the first house on the left as you drive past
Oh, the
Lafayette.
first house, okay.
Yes.
Oh, got it, thank you. Just trying to get oriented.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Brian Roy, 153 Middlebridge.
Could you spell your last name?
Roy, R-O-Y.
Fair enough.
Brian?
Brian,
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent. So please tell me what you'd like to.
First off, I'd like to go on record as not being a cranky neighbor or a butter. My only real question is, when I look around the neighborhood, if it's a four-bedroom house, there tends to be four vehicles, four people. I'm kind of concerned where four vehicles would, what part of they've seemed to spread out on the lot with the house. And I get that, it's the business they're in. I'm just wondering where four vehicles are gonna, where they're gonna take up residence.
Sure.
I already had this conversation a couple of years ago in response to the house that was built at 1 Lafayette, right behind them. And I said, you know, this board allowed them to build at something ridiculous, like 6 feet off the property line. And they insisted they would park in the basement of the house. And the basement is full of trash. And every time they're there, they're blocking the end of Lafayette. So there's no extra space there. The next house at 7, they have 4 people living there. They have 3 vehicles. So they take up some residency on Lafayette. Luckily, the next 2 houses are really summer-only houses. So they're not, but somebody's renovating 201 Middlebridge, and he doesn't have a driveway, so he does have frontage on Lafayette, so he's going to be parking in Lafayette. The less than friendly neighbor across the street on Middlebridge has put big boulders on the edge of her property because she doesn't want anybody parking in front of her house. When I was looking at that plan online, I was trying to estimate the distance from the street to the house, and I was guessing it was around 18 feet. Just for comparison, I drive a Chevy pickup, and I took a tape measure and measured it. The truck's 19 feet long, and it's nothing special. It's just an average old truck. I just wondered, you know, where we're going to put 4 vehicles. You know, we're going from a 2-bedroom house it's never had more than 1 or 2 people living there for the last 20 years to something significantly bigger. Very pretty, but significantly bigger.
Well, they did say that they've got the 2 inside and the 2 outside, but I understand what you're saying is
Yeah.
not everybody leaves those 2 inside open. But on the plans, it says they have 4.
Yeah, okay.
So,
It's a pretty house, but it's a big house for the neighborhood, there's no doubt about it.
so the parking was your biggest concern?
Yeah, it's my concern, because I can see where it seems to be going downhill. There's a lot of issues there in the summer. Everybody wants to access the water. Cars on the weekend will be parked from the bridge all the way to the corner where Lafayette crosses the road. There's really no extra parking. I mean, the previous owners used to park extra vehicles where it says 12.5 feet. Yeah, right there. But they've moved the house over and centered it in the lot, so I'm guessing there probably isn't room to park on the lawn anymore.
Less, it seems.
It seems.
Yep.
I know everybody wants bigger and better. I just wonder if the board looks at the whole picture when we.
Each one, we should consider everything, you know, which is parking, which is sort of its
Well, I mean,
look, which is its, you know.
It's a house with a dock. I mean, I guarantee you, whoever buys that is going to get a boat, a couple of jet skis. I mean, where does all that stuff go, you know, is my question.
Sure. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wait, hang on. Any questions from the board? No?
Yes. Exactly where did you say you lived?
153 Middlebridge, the house
Oh, you're on
closest to the
Middlebridge.
bridge. And I actually own the abutting property, the one that's 43 -4 or 3. with the boat shrink wrapped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else out there want to speak on behalf? Good evening. State and spell your name, please.
Lauren Daly, D-A-L-E-Y.
And are you going to speak, young man?
Joseph Daly, D-A-L-E-Y.
And you guys both swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Excellent. So go ahead, tell us what you want to say.
So we live at 185. My main concern is that my children catch the bus from our driveway, the school bus. And if there is a house next door that is right on the property line as they propose, that would reduce the line of sight of the cars coming, put my children in danger when they're getting onto the bus. It's a very busy street. People speed down there all the time. In summer, it's even worse. And also the privacy factor of somebody building a house. It's going to look straight into my bedroom windows, which, that concerns me because right now we have the view, we have the privacy, we can have the curtains open all the time, and they're proposing to put an equipment platform that would be right outside my bedroom window.
Oh, so you're on the very triangle corner? Okay. Yep. Okay. I mean, I'm not defending anyone, it's just a lot of, these days, equipment is really quiet as opposed to what it used to be. But
it won't be.
It will be right next to your house.
Yeah. I mean, if things are going to change, if they're going to redesign their Taj Mahal that they're proposing to build, maybe that would be a consideration that they could perhaps put it where there isn't anybody on either side. Put it under one of the back decks, perhaps. It still has to be raised because it's a floodplain. Are they going to reinforce the wall that's on the river side?
We can ask them that.
Because it floods, like to where in the photograph where the picnic table is, it floods to there every storm. When it's a new moon, it's a higher tide, comes straight over that wall.
It does, okay.
And also the back fence is in the town.
Right away.
Yeah. So the shed that they've included in their square footage isn't actually on their property. Right. So,
Technically, it's their shed though, right? But it's.
Yeah, well, it is.
Their
Yes,
yeah.
So, those kinds of things, mainly the privacy, where are they going to park their cars? They're going to have jet skis and a boat and, whatever, and that's going to be in their garage, So then where are they going to put, and then they're going to have visitors, where you can't park on the street. There's no parking on Middlebridge at all. It's a very dangerous street.
And, I mean, you also understand though, if they're within the setback, they still can build it that tall.
No, that's fine, but don't put a window where my bedroom is, that kind of thing. And, it's like, it's very quiet there.
Sure.
And it's very peaceful. And
Sure.
just want to maintain that. I mean, really, there's little cottages all over Middlebridge Road, Lafayette Street, as the Reeds said. It doesn't look, like a humongous house is going to fit in with the neighborhood. It's not. There's houses on the other side of the road, further down. They're all little two-bedroom cottages. They've renovated those. Some of those are rentals. They've kept them as, as two-bedroom cottages.
Okay, thank you.
When they mentioned the driveway and the garage, they said it fits 4 cars total, which in the building that's there right now, there's only a spot for 1 car in both the garage and the driveway. So if you'll have to extend the driveway to fit 4 cars, and that's,
It's definitely going to be wider than it is now, yes. So they're gonna have to take up more.
so currently it doesn't fit 4, like
Right,
stated.
right. And it doesn't, it's never been, they said that, the gentleman said that there was sometimes cars on the other side of the property. I'm sure they didn't use their garage for a garage.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, she did?
She did, yeah.
Good for her. I can't be that, I'm not that disciplined. But but they would still have some overflow even in that smaller house. There would still be some extra cars.
Well, they wouldn't be on the street. They would be on the other side of the house.
Right.
Like I said, you can't park on the street. There's not like a fire lane. There's no room. And then say there's a lot of people. There's bike races down that street. There's runners. There's the rowers. They do their fitness up and down the street. And if you put cars there, then you have to go into the street to go around the cars, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, because I mean, they are saying basically out to that concrete line is where their stairs are going to come.
Yeah. And that would, like I said, that would deter the line of sight of, the kids catching the bus or us even taking our dogs for a walk.
Right.
Or the dog running away, and their cars wouldn't see him.
Yeah, one of them likes to run.
And you have to back out of the driveway as well?
Yeah.
So obviously.
It's really dangerous because they come around the corner really fast. They come over the bridge really fast, and and you've got to like take a shot sometimes. And if there's our line of sight is a little bit hampered, it's dangerous.
So are you learning how to drive yet? No. Next year. All right. Well, good luck.
He's a good passenger, though.
That's where it starts. All right. You guys have any questions for these guys? No? Anything else? Thank you very much. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ted Monahan,
And spell your name, please.
Monahan, first name Ted, Ted.
And you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Monahan.
So, this is a pretty ambitious project from where it started, where it is right now, and what the current version looks like. My fear in this neighborhood, from a developer point of view, having done development projects, is the oversaturation of this building on this lot, setting the precedence for what's now seems to be the shifting tide in a lot of coastal communities. Matunuck, East Matunuck. I grew up in Matunuck, and if you've driven down Matunuck in the last 10 years, it's been an explosion. We see a development project not far south, but in between East Matunuck Beach Road and Matunuck Oyster Bar, a cluster of houses raised on stilts, 12 feet, in which there are periods in that driveway, I don't know, creation, where you can't actually drive through that neighborhood. My fear is that we're building bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where Narrow River is going to look like Matunuck is right now, or like East Matunuck is going to look right now. But that's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is the stairways and the 0-foot setback. That stairway, as it protrudes outside on Middlebridge Road, also blocks the view if you're in that driveway, if you need to pull out. that structure in and of itself is going to become an obstacle, right? Even the close proximity of the road to the landing of that stair. Somebody sways a foot off the road, and it happens. I mean, it's a very busy street. Could really hurt somebody. Could take that portion of the deck out very easily. 12 feet setback, I mean, honestly, not an issue. But 0, I think it sets a precedence for anything that may happen in the future in Middlebridge. Build a house, great. I live at 1 Lafayette with Amy. We're building a house. We're the one that everybody throws darts at, right? Where's your parking? You know, it's not done yet. When it's done, you'll see it. We'll fulfill the obligation that we had set forth in the beginning. But right now, with COVID and things, you know, going on the way they are, it's a work in progress, you know? It's not finished yet. So yes, it's filled with construction debris. It looks like a mess. There's a lot of wood and timber and doors and...
So that was your house that was brought up?
1 Lafayette, yeah.
That's right.
You know, so at some point, Amy and I will probably move there. And she will need to park her car in the garage, for which there's 2 parking spaces, actually. We built the house so that you can go right through the house and park another vehicle underneath the deck, purposely. I mean, and also, you can park a car, if you really wanted to, in the front entrance. And Lafayette parking, it works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. You know, again, another work in progress, you know. Next door neighbors have 3 cars. Neighbor across the street has a couple of cars. We're all trying to figure it out. At some point, we'll figure it out. But the other question I have is if you can scroll up towards the back end of Lafayette, where the current existing shed is and the fence, it looks as if it's sitting on the opposite side of the property line, but I could be wrong because I haven't seen any markers, surveying markers, so I can't really tell.
Of where the fence is and
Where the fence is and where the shed is.
Right.
I mean, hopefully, through the construction process, I'm not sure what the intent is with the shed. Maybe they can move it closer into the house.
Well, no, it sounds like that's going away, the shed.
Or the fence, you know.
Well,
bring it
we can
inside
find
closer.
out about the fence. I mean, it's not...
Yeah, we missed
relevant.
it. We were a little late, so.
That's okay.
We apologize.
Nope. We haven't talked about it yet, so you haven't missed it.
Oh, okay. And, you know, I think all of this will actually have to go through a coastal resource management evaluation, right? So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily stop here.
Right.
Coastal's going to take a look at it. They're going to see whether or not it fits their paradigm. But I know when Christine Driscoll owned the house before Amy bought it, there was a 5-foot setback requirement, which I thought was pretty forgiving. 5 feet from the road is, it's not a lot of space. We moved the house back for a number of reasons. One was to give the sideline visibility of the house next door more ample opportunity to take a look at the river by moving the house back rather than forward towards the marsh, which proposed a significant problem. I mean, we have 7.5 feet of setback, which, not ideal, but it will have to work. Most vehicles, my truck is 19 feet.
You're on Lafayette, you said?
Yes, 1 Lafayette. So if you pull the pan, one with a little boat in front of it, right there.
That one, okay.
That's 1 Lafayette. Again, it's an ambitious project for that size of lot, where it was. But Coastal Resource Management created that footprint, you know.
For you guys?
No, for Christine.
Right.
So originally they came in with a plan. Coastal Resource Management took a look at it and said, no, we'll give you 20 by 30, and you got to put the house there. Right? You meet the current setback requirements, we'll let you have a little bit of a deck, but other than that, the footprint doesn't get any larger than that.
Yes, they do
Right.
establish that, yes.
You know, and we also had, if you can pan a little bit further towards the, a lot of that land off the deck has been given away. It's all buffer zone now, with it, 5 feet. So Coastal Resource Management has gained a buffer along almost the entire perimeter of that lot that faces the water. 8 feet on.
Just yours. I mean, it's not relevant to theirs, per se.
We don't know what Coastal Resource Management's going to do.
Right, well.
You know?
Right, and it sounds like they're staying where they are as a precaution.
Right.
Right.
So, but my biggest concern is Middle Bridge Road. A stairway with a 0 setback requirement, a landing with stairs coming off the front. I think it poses a significant problem for vehicles and for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my only objection to it.
Okay. Board members, question for Mr. Bond? No? Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay. I actually, Mr. McGreen, I wanted to ask a couple follow-up. There are just a couple things brought up, and they're not necessarily relevant to the what you're asking for relief from, but they did bring up the fence. The neighbors were curious about the fence, and I don't know if you can speak on that, if you can, or.
I don't know if we own that fence. That's outside the property line, correct?
So is that like on town land that someone put a fence on that nobody really owns, or the town owns? But so does it?
They're probably going to take it down.
Yeah, for privacy purposes, we would probably build a fence around this.
But within your property line.
Yeah, we would not put it back where, on town.
Okay. Because I'll tell you, the town will not take down that fence anytime.
We can take it down.
So you know. Yes. And I'm not going to put Jamie on the spot. But, so, and then how about the seawall? Is that anything that needs to be addressed by you guys, or is that stable and everything's okay out there?
So that's stable right now. Eventually, there'll be a CRMC maintenance ascent for that dock, because that dock is not safe.
All right.
Currently.
Yep.
But that'll be phase 2.
Okay. But as it's not in any particular danger, that everything seems to be stable with the wall itself. So.
Oh, yes, the wall, certainly.
Yeah, just the wall. Okay.
So we're hearing what you're saying. But just to address the parking, I mean, the target purchaser of this home, I mean, the house is going to be listed for, what are you going to list this house for, roughly?
It'll be above $2 million.
North of 2.
So you go to the parking?
Yeah. And so the type of client that's going to be buying this home is going to be a person that's buying a second home, because it's cheap in Rhode Island. You know, we have people that looking at it from Connecticut, from Massachusetts. They're going to be living there probably for 3 months out of the year and leaving. So from that perspective, I live in a similar neighborhood that my entire neighborhood empties out in the winter. Narragansett goes from 35,000 down back down to about 12,000 people in the winter. So it's going to be a quiet place. As far as the parking, there are 2 underground parking spaces, and then the 2 on the front. So there is adequate parking. And like I said, for this type of a home, it's going to be pristine. It's not going to be garbage in the garage and the people can't pull in their Mercedes. It's just not going to be that kind of house. It's going to be a nice, beautiful home. I'm sure you've seen other Davitt properties in the vicinity. They build a beautiful home. So with that being said, we did hear you about the frontage issue, the closeness to the stairs and the size of the decks. We'd just like to get a feel from the board. We'd be willing to go back and try and bring the deck coverage into conformance to meet the percentage, which may require us to perhaps bring the stairs off to the side maybe.
Sure.
And that would pull it off.
We would probably need relief on the right-hand side.
But then, then it would trigger the relief. Although we're pulling the house, we're kind of.
No, that side's on the right-hand side.
Right, but I'm saying on the left, we're bringing it, making it more conforming on the right, but then we'd be just doing it on the other side. So, but we could probably do something like that, and we'd be willing to do that if that's something that might get us to the finish line. But if, so I'd like to get some feedback from the board. If it's like, no, we don't like the
No,
far
no matter
relief.
what?
No matter what, if you're saying, no, that's not gonna do it for us, then we,
And I do think that if we do move those stairs, we heard you on the parking issues. It's standard parking spots, but 9 by 13. I haven't measured that. There could be room for a third spot. I'd have to look at, probably to the left. I'd have to look at the drainage considerations because it is a tight lot. But that's something that could be crushed stone. We could do like crushed stone with pavers to get a third spot, and then you'd have 5 total spots. So that's something
Seems
that
to be the biggest concern.
yeah,
One
so
of
that's
the
something that we
bigger
can absolutely, that we can certainly look into that. I mean, just measuring that, it could work. I can't tell you that a 19-foot truck would fit there, but if it's 12 feet from the road plus another 12 feet to the porch, I mean, there might be enough length there. So I could certainly do those.
Yeah, if actually, we can kind of talk about, we're going to talk about what our goal might be or what else we're looking for, but that would be helpful.
Absolutely willing to.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, of hearing us. Okay. Do you want to add it? Any other questions for the applicant?
Let me understand
Mr. Rosen?
what you're proposing. Are you proposing to postpone?
What I'm suggesting is that, I'm hearing you saying, I heard you had a concern with the closeness, the sight line. One of the objectors, some concerned citizen, talked about the frontage, so we could shrink the overall deck.
Yeah, no, I
Bring
understand.
it to compliance, which includes the front porch and the back deck, and perhaps
Moving the
stairs to the side of the house, which would require us less relief, frontage relief, rather than being right on the property line. And, but we're still looking for the floor area relief, which is that's a non-starter for us. So if that's something that you consider, we'd be more than happy to continue. If we know it's just gonna be, that's what I'm trying to.
You're looking for a continuance. Then.
Yeah, only if, we're looking for a continuance to try and modify the decks and pull those stairs, to bring the decks into compliance with the percentage, and to bring the stairs off to the side. We can come back with a plan like that. But I'm also hearing that perhaps, I heard some other board members saying, I think the house is still too big. I think the floor area is unreasonable. If that's the case, and we're gonna go down in flames, that's fine too. I would just rather know that and have that in a discussion.
Not to be rejected a second time.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Understood.
We'll start from square one and we'll come back with a completely different plan.
Ms. Goins, were you going to mention? Oh, he answered it. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you guys want to talk about this a little bit in terms of what they're requesting, which is, or what they're saying they would do, which is reduce the deck size to compliance, keep the footprint kind of the same, move around the stairs a little bit, try to get a little more parking in. So that's what they're proposing.
Yes.
Mr. Diamond, go ahead.
Okay, so I appreciate where the applicant's coming from with that suggestion. I don't know if that solves it for me personally, like my opinion of this. I think that to meet the standards such as least relief necessary and not for greater financial gain, I think what we're talking about is more of a structural and fundamental change than just shifting a staircase and a porch. So I would recommend rethinking not only the program, but the way that the program is executed within the plan. I think that they're just looking at the way things are set up. I think there's more that could be done without potentially losing the essence of what you're trying to achieve in terms of a look and the feel. That could be far more powerful and also within the confines of what the basis is that we need to look at this at. That would achieve that more than just shifting a porch and a staircase.
Mr. Rosen?
I'm going to agree agree with everything that Kevin says, because he's much more tuned into this than I am.
Ms. Hicks, do you have any thoughts or ideas?
I have driven by the existing house probably 6 times to really be able to decide, whether I think this design is appropriate for that lot. I think your design is beautiful. I think the house is beautiful. I just feel like it's being sandwiched into a lot that's too small for this particular house. Maybe a redesign would work.
Right.
I was concerned about the 0 setback for the front stairs. I was concerned about the parking. I was concerned about the fact that right on top of the neighbors. So that's where I stand.
I agree with everything that everyone has said on the board. I'm very concerned about the character of the neighborhood. And then, of course, the original intent of the South Kingstown zoning ordinance. There's a reason they're here to ask for relief. And this is a request for multiple relief. And I think we need to look, as Kevin meant, as actually several people have mentioned, anyways, as you said about the least relief necessary, I would believe it would require a redesign. But I don't understand, and I don't know if I can ask this question, why don't they find a buyer and then design the house with the buyer in mind? Because it sounds like they're just building a large house, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and I think the value was $2 million.
That's what they mentioned, yeah.
And that just is not that neighborhood the way it is now. Does the zoning ordinance, we are facing a changing coastal line. And I don't know, this is a big precedent for that little neighborhood. So I have some concerns that I think would require a different approach or a redesign of the space so it doesn't require so much relief in every, except the height, right? The height was okay. So.
All right. So I don't disagree at all. I think I think it's the volume is a lot for its space, and I think if it's this many reliefs being requested, it sort of is suggesting that it's just too much for that lot. I think so. It doesn't sound like that there's widespread support for its current iteration. We can certainly keep this open and continue it if you wanted to sort of resubmit. On a reduced footprint, as well as some of the things you were mentioning, but that's kind of where we stand now.
So, spoke to my client. He builds a lot of these things, so he can run the numbers in his head pretty quickly. Could probably get the floor area ratio down another 200 square feet.
Right.
But just addressing the issue of the character of the neighborhood, the character is going to change because we can't go straight up. So all those houses are like this, and this house is going to be like, so the character will change, and we're permitted to change the character, quite frankly, because we're forced to go up because of the base flood elevation. So that character will change. Whether we, completely meet that floor area ratio or not, we can still go up. So,
that's correct.
From looking from the street level, whether we do that or not, it's not really going to look it's going to look different. And all those houses eventually, and I threw out that number at 2.5, hopefully for the neighbors, if they're not in the business, they don't realize it, all their houses are worth that. Right. All those properties along there, those little tiny houses are all going to be worth 2.5. That's just the nature of the business.
Yes.
So the character will change. But, so as far as reducing the floor area, so 3 things we could probably do. Reduce the decks to meet the the standard. Put the stairs on the side to reduce the relief that we request, and perhaps get the floor area relief request down another 200 square feet. So that would probably bring it down to, from the 26 down to 24. And I think the permitted is 19, is it? Yeah, 19. So we'd be looking for 400, 500 square feet as opposed, so we could probably get it down another 200 square feet.
So you're saying that you won't be able to meet the maximum allowed sort of building lot coverage? Like you can't do that?
Could we do that? I don't.
I mean, certainly we can.
Right.
But it changes the strategy of the home from a resale to now a rental property.
Right.
So there, I know every application stands alone. The one that was approved back in February, that relief was for 600 square feet to build a 2,400 square foot house, and it was noted that that was consistent with the character and the nature of the surrounding area, and we're one street up, so. So no, our preference, the strategy that we have currently is to market this as resale, but if that gets, if it gets down too small, then it flips from making sense as a resale to a rental property. And as Jack said, by renovating this, we are bringing it up to the current standards of the floodplain. So the nature of the cottages is going to change, and those ordinances are for the better for the flood as the waters rise.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can take that other property, you know, for a variety of reasons, different circumstances, but they do all stand alone. And, you know, everyone that was voting then is not voting now, which is also different. You know, so I think in this particular property, if I'm just looking at the outline of where your setbacks are, you know, it can, you know, it's not a small building if you were to fill that already. I mean, so I think I think the issue is that the board pretty universally feels that the building is a little too big. So, you know, it's not for us to necessarily redesign it. I think it's just saying that it's too big.
Yeah, I think we
And
can-
so I think if it's a matter of, you know, just knowing that if the whole scale of the project were less, it would probably not only fit better on the site, but feel better for the board members. I think our concerns are for the lot and the ordinance, relative to that lot, not necessarily on sort of what happens to it going forward in terms of if it's sold or how it's sold or how it's rented. It's more of, you know, sort of what is appropriate for this particular property. So I'm not, we can't give you necessarily more guidance than sort of how we've described how we're uncomfortable with it. So I'm not sure how you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, what do we do? Yeah.
I think we'd like to continue.
Sure.
And, you know, in our design changes, if we can't do it, then I'll just call the solicitor up and probably withdraw the application.
You can certainly do that, withdraw without prejudice, right?
Or without prejudice at any time, but at this point, to May 17th, the next regularly scheduled meeting.
And you guys are okay with that? And you kind of know what, as much as we can give you, kind of what we're looking for? Okay.
At least we appreciate the feedback, so we're not going blind.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I don't want to do that. I get it. I'm in contracting, so I don't like people being
You don't want
vague.
death by a...
I get it. I get it. So, anyone have anything else to add?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say, I hear what they're saying in terms of, the change will probably be inevitable.
No doubt.
And I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think, you know, there's always a concern that people who are trying to improve the neighborhood are not penalized. But it's almost like too drastic. I think Mr. Cagnetta and we were all concerned about the size of it in this neighborhood, so.
Okay. So,
How soon
good.
do we need to get those plans to you? Because it's going to, is like a week before the hearing reasonable? I know you like to have time to look at it, but.
So, I mean,
I mean, typically 10 days, but I mean, if the board feels comfortable sooner than that.
is everybody okay with if we only had a week to, because we'll certainly be talking about it during the meeting as well.
If you'd rather the board continue it to June,
I mean, we can schedule it for the 17th, and if they wanted another month, they can ask for it, right?
Yeah, let's do that. So
It's just
if-
dependent on our engineer and our architects, so I can't speak for them and their schedules, so.
So if we can't get
If you're in
it
the
to you on
business.
time within the 10 days, then we'll just ask for.
We're pretty reasonable, I think. You know, with the electronic age, we can sort of look at things sooner than running around to print. But, you know, we'll shoot for, so you want to shoot for the 17th, and if you can't make it, just let us know, and we can continue it. They can continue it just with a letter, or do they have to be here next month if they wanted to continue it?
I think the board typically grants a first request, you know, by correspondence, but that's technically up to you.
All right, so if you wanted to send a letter or an email saying that you wanted another month, just sort of let us know, and we'll bring it up at the next meeting and continue it another month, if that's what you needed.
Do you require additional notice to go out if it's continued more than one time?
No.
No, the only time it would have to be renoticed is if the relief were changing.
So everyone in here that has spoken on this, you will not be notified again as to if it's next month on the 17th or if it's June. So the only way you can do that is looking online. Jessica can tell you.
So the agenda will be posted online at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, more likely probably 2 weeks prior to the meeting. So it'll be posted at southkingstownri.com, or you can go to the Secretary of State's website.
And you can certainly watch it. You know, it's exciting. But you just can't comment online, but you can certainly watch what's happening.
I would also state that, because we may not know if you're going to continue till kind of right before, any correspondence that I receive, you know, such as a request for a continuation, that will be posted online also, so you'll be aware if you look at under the current zoning applications, it'll show you that, you know, the parties requested a continuation, so you don't show up for something that's not happening.
Plus, their files are in there pretty quickly too, right?
Yeah, everything, as soon as I get it, I upload it to the website, so.
So our revised plans, we'll send you a PDF that can be uploaded so that neighbors could take a look at it as well. Okay.
Yep. You don't have to wait for the ink to dry. All right? So does that make sense? Everybody okay with that? Thank you. So anyone else want to speak in behalf of this? No? Any other discussion by the board? No? And someone,
Continue then.
okay, someone want to make a motion to continue?
Move to continue the petition until May 17th.
May 17. Mr. Rosen, is there a second?
Yes.
A second by Mr. Diamond. Any discussion? No? Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Mr. Cagnetta, aye. Ms. Hicks?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes for the continuance. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We have minutes from last month. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, changes? No? Okay. We can, someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
Move approval of the minutes of the, what is it? March 22nd meeting.
All right, motion made by Mr. Rosen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Anything else we need to cover? Technically, no, because it could be 4.
Oh, that's right, we're down to 4.
Yeah, could be 4.
Yeah, because Tom
Can't.
will be here, but he can't, so
Right, he'll have to recuse
nobody get sick.
again. So he'll have to leave the room now too, right? Technically? Is that the rule?
Well, that's the board voted last month to adopt that revision to the bylaws. I was preparing the revisions recently, and I noticed that the bylaws or rules of procedure themselves require public notice of revisions, and I know we had it as an agenda item last month, but I've asked Jess to include it in the legal notice for, I think, the next meeting, or it could also be done in June when we elect a chair and vice chair. So, because if we're busy next month.
But we don't have to kick him out of the room.
But, yeah, so, you know, it's our policy now. We just need to officially update the bylaws to reflect that.
The other thing to consider, so next month, we have a packed agenda. We've got a couple that are probably going to be a little bit hot, so they'll, maybe not hot, but they're going to take some time to get through. So I don't know if we want to consider the availability of our second Wednesday, or if we want to roll it over into June. So we're already meeting May 17th, so all right, so the backup one is the 24th, but yeah. So you can't do your 24th is,
Our office has conflicts on that night.
okay. So I don't know if we want to, I can look into the 31st, see if anyone else has it already reserved, the chambers, what the availability is for the 31st for the board members.
For me.
Okay. All right, I will, does the 31st work for you, Amy? Okay, I'll look into that. I'll send out an email tomorrow, just letting you know that I've booked the chambers, that it's available, and then we can decide that night if we want to carry over.
Yeah. Feeling this one might take a while.
This continuance plus,
2 others.
Well, there's 7 petitions on for next month already. So even without this continuance, we're already going to run over. We wouldn't, I don't see any possible way we could have gotten through all 7 of them next month.
Summers are usually busier anyway, so, I mean, coming into it, expect full agendas.
Spoiled by tonight.
Yeah.
Darn it.
So, yeah, I would say that in the next couple months, maybe plan on that 3rd and/or 4th Wednesday. Well, I'm sorry, the 3rd is the given, maybe that 4th Wednesday if needed.
Jess, what's the meeting, what day is the June, if you could remind me?
The June
So I'm here.
is the 21st.
I'm going to pick up my son and family that day, yeah, but I won't.
If this one gets continued again.
No, I could be here in May, the end of May, but not in June.
Right, so you can be here for the 31st, but not the 17th.
Right, so,
And so again, I mean, we have Tom also, so if you're not here, it doesn't really matter, as long as for this particular one, the other 4 members present are here. So I think we have, that change has helped us quite a bit.
Okay. It makes it, it helps. Yes, yeah. Didn't take as long as I did to learn any of this. So we have Google Maps. Okay, is there anything else? No? Motion to adjourn?
so moved.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
As long as we get our seats back.